Angie Vishyanan, and I am the founder of Leg Up Legal. We provide a pre-law mentoring program to connect pre-law students to lawyers so that they can learn a little bit more about the legal profession before they dive headfirst in. And we started doing these Zoom meetups at the beginning of COVID-19 so that people could learn a little bit about the profession and talk to actual lawyers. So I've been bringing in 2 lawyers a week to come chat with you guys, and I'm excited today to bring in Annette Story, who actually runs her own legal marketing agency. So if you're interested in lots of different career paths and you think maybe one day you might want to use your law degree for something different than just the practice of law, I think this will be a really beneficial meetup for you. So Annette, I'll let you take it away.
Oh, goodness. Well, I went to law school 20 years ago, and I immediately got a job in the federal government. And the reason I chose the federal government, even though I was sort of being groomed and primed to do trial work, I took a semester off to work. And what interesting thing happened was a few of my colleagues graduated, and then I graduated right behind them. And I noticed that all of them that went to the really, really large law firms were making a lot of money, but they were working really hard and they literally had no time for themselves. And I thought I didn't want to do that. And then also I noticed that a lot of them were being required to take cases that didn't align with their personal ethics or their values. And, you know, when you work for a law firm, you kind of have to you have to do the cases that are given to you. And that didn't sit right with my moral compass. And so I made the decision that I would go into the federal government, and I was offered a job at the Department of Labor, and I was there for 20 years. So I was an investigator at the Department of Labor doing ERISA work, which is the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, 1974. And so I looked at retirement plans and health benefit plans and things like that, that employers would steal money from employees. And I would go investigate that and then help people. So that was really great. But after doing that for 20 years, I was burned out and I wanted to do something different, and I didn't know what that was. And it was, I believe, a bit of a godsend that someone started talking to me about online legal marketing, which I didn't even know was a thing several years ago. And so I started writing as a side job just to see if I liked it, and I loved it. So then I learned everything there was to learn about SEO, which is search engine optimization, and I learned everything about legal marketing and law firm marketing and Google ranking. I just learned everything. And then I worked for some really large digital marketing agencies while I was still working for the federal government, because I was too scared to take the risk to just jump off and do my own thing. And then finally I realized I am working 2 full-time jobs now. And so my very supportive husband told me that I needed to just quit my federal government job, and I did. And then I realized that I could really help. I was, for the large marketing firms, I was working for large law firms, writing content for them. And I decided I wanted to help the small and solo law firms. So I created my own digital marketing agency that specifically helps small and solo law firms. So that's my story.
That's awesome, Annette. That's so cool. I didn't know that the world of legal marketing existed either when I was in law school, but it makes total sense that it does. So I'd love to just dig in a little bit more about like what you did when you were a federal investigator. So I want them to get a sense of different career paths.
Sure.
So talk a little bit more about what your life was like as a federal investigator from when you were junior all the way to when you left.
So I think that if you are interested, you know, you have to make a decision in your life what you value the most. I think we all know that if you're going to work at a really big law firm and try to make partner and do all of those things, they're going to expect you to work probably more than 40 hours a week. So, you know, you have to make the decision, and that's fine. That's perfect for some people. I knew that I wanted a family. I knew that I didn't want to work 60-hour weeks. I knew that there were things that I wanted to do personally, passion projects of mine that I wouldn't have time for. So that's the reason I chose the federal government. My experience was with the Department of Labor, Employee Benefits Security Administration, and I have to tell you that it was overall a very good one. I felt like that there were opportunities in a lot of cases for me to work ahead. It was not one of the typical government agencies that you hear about that the workers don't do anything. Like, that's kind of the image of federal government workers. And I think there are federal government workers and then there's federal government workers. And so I think, when you get into maybe issues of accounting and legal issues, that, you have people that are much more career driven. I was afforded the opportunity to work several different kinds of cases. I worked on civil matters and criminal matters both. I did not personally litigate any of the cases. So the way that our agency worked was we would hear about an employer that was stealing retirement money or stealing, the worst was health insurance premiums. And what would happen is people would go get brain surgery, literally, and then they would find out later they were retroactively canceled. It was horrific. And so their insurance was like, well, they always offer a grace period, right, for health insurance. And so if your employer doesn't pay that 3-month grace period at the end, they retroactively cancel you. So there were horror stories that we went in and tried to help people with. So that always made me feel really good. I felt like my moral compass was aligned with the work that I was doing. That was important to me. And then, you get to talk to the participants that you're helping too. So that is always very rewarding. So the kinds of cases that we worked, sometimes they were just civil. And so we would work with the RSOL, which is the Regional Solicitor of Labor, who is our Department of Labor legal team. So we would work really closely with them. And sometimes we would have to take the stand in those kinds of cases. And then if there was a serious egregious, like if it hit a certain dollar limit, or if it was particularly egregious over a long period of time, or there were just horrific circumstances, we would take it criminal. And so we would either take it to an AUSA, which they don't have any time, right? Like, it has to be a really sexy case for an AUSA to take it. And most of them did not think that retirement plans were too sexy, but we would end up working with a lot of local prosecutors as well. So, and we worked with everything from 401k plans to money purchase pension plans to different kinds of health plans. So I was afforded the opportunity to work on a large variety of cases and continually learn about like ESOPs. And I actually worked on the Enron case, which I think a lot of people probably know that one. That was one of our bigger ones that I worked. And it was from Dallas, right? It was Texas, but they involved, I didn't live in Dallas, but they involved a lot of the other offices in it because the amount of discovery was gargantuan. So I did work on that as well. So there were opportunities to work on really big cases like that. There was opportunities to work on smaller cases where you just help a guy in Duluth, Minnesota get back his $2,000 in retirement income. So it was I feel like it was a very rewarding career, but I had done it for a really long time. And so kind of like anything, it was not something that I felt super passionate about, but it did afford me the ability to always be at my daughter's games, performances, shows, school things, be at home with her early, pick her up from school every day. So that was the decision I made, and it was a good one for my life.
And did you get that job right out of law school? Did you intern with them while you were in law school, or how did?
Yeah, so it's a funny story. I will give this recommendation to your students. Do not listen to your career counselors at your school, because they often, my experience was they only wanted to talk to the people who were in the top 10. Like, if you were not top 10, why are you even bothering me? Like, I'm gracing you with my presence now because you are in the top 25 or whatever, right? And so I remember I was flipping through their book. They had a little 3-ring binder. It's the old days, kids. And so they had this binder of all of these different job opportunities. I remember I said to her, I said, hey, this is the Department of Labor. And frankly, the only reason I chose it was because they had really good pay, really good hours as an intern.
Good
I
reason.
didn't really care about retirement law. I had done nothing with retirement law. And so I thought I would do international law. Didn't work out that way. So anyway, I said, hey, maybe I'll try for this internship. And she's like, you shouldn't try.
Wow, they said
no, it was terrible. It was terrible. And so then I got mad. I'm like, oh, I'm going to try for it now.
Just watch me.
Right. So I went in and I ended up having a really great rapport with the guy, and they hired me on. It's called a co-op in the government, which is the same thing as an intern. And I was an intern for an entire year. And the rule of that agency was, if we like you and you like us, and there's a job open at the end of it, you've got it. So it, but they have a year to decide if they like you, right? And so at the end of the year, they were like, do you want this job? And no, actually, I didn't find, no, I'm lying to you. The way I found out I had a job was I walked into the office and someone said, oh, congratulations. I'm like, what are you talking about? They were like, well, we just got an email that you've been hired on permanently. I'm like, wow, they didn't even ask me, but I was happy to take it. We had talked about it like a couple weeks before, but there was nothing like solid. They knew I wanted it. So it wasn't like shocking, but it was kind of funny that I found out that way.
It's funny, that when you look back, you kind of, sometimes you misremember things. Like I misremember things all the time about my career. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was kind of strange. But
well, what was, to make the story even a little bit funnier, the way I found out that I got the internship was I applied for it, and then I immediately went to London for a month to hang out with friends. And this is way, I'm so dating myself. We didn't have cell phones, right? So I had to go and make this phone call that I knew was going to be so expensive from my friend's flat. And I remember calling and listening to my voicemail messages. Again, I'm dating myself on like my answering machine, right? And it said that I had gotten the position. So I got to celebrate in London. So that was kind of fun.
oh, that's so good. That's so good. I remember.
Story.
And did they require you to pass the bar and everything, or
they didn't? They, I said that I was going to take a certain time off of work and that I wanted to do that. But the way that position worked was because they did tend to take law students. They wanted law students. They didn't require you to take the bar because you're not actually litigating anything or signing anything. We always ran everything through our RSOL, which is the civil, or criminal, we do ASA or the local prosecutors. So we were not actually practicing law.
Got it.
So we didn't have to actually, but they did genuinely, they were looking for people who had either legal experience or were just out of law school. So
yeah, I think that's an interesting point to make, because a lot of times people go to law school and then they never end up practicing law, but you never hear about those stories because there's just not that many people who do it. A lot of people.
I have never officially practiced law ever.
There you go. So, and did you actually take the bar exam that you wanted to take, or did you? Yeah,
I did.
Which one did you take?
What's that?
Which one did you take?
Missouri. I took the Missouri bar. I went to the University of Missouri, Kansas City. So okay. UMKC Law. That's where I went.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, I think that's so fascinating because a lot of people get into law school, they start working in a couple of summer internships, and then they realize, wow, maybe the practice of law isn't really what I want to do. But then they don't really know what else they can do. So right. So I think this path to, the federal government may be pretty interesting for those types of folks because, yeah, you're still utilizing all the skills that you developed in your law degree, right?
Yeah. And the best way to get a job, well, the best way to get a job is to know someone, right? But that's the same way as it is anywhere. But usajobs.com, I'm sure everybody may know about that, but just in case they don't, that's where you can go to look, and they just post all jobs on there throughout the United States. So that's where you can go to look for federal jobs. But I would also encourage people to look maybe at state jobs, because the state of Missouri, everything runs out of Jefferson City, our capital. And but there are state jobs that also afford a very good quality of life work balance. Again, you're not going to make as much. That's just the truth. But it just depends, what kind of level of work you want to do in your life, like how much you want your job to consume you and be your identity, which again is totally fine for people who want to go to big law. I just knew that it wasn't the path for me. Most specifically, even maybe even equal to having a family, was that I grew very concerned about the fact that I would need to take cases that did not align with my moral compass. I was really worried about that. So
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had friends where not just the, woman would take a job due to family considerations, but, I've had friends that are men that are just, they decide, I'm going to take a more steady job like in the federal government so that I can have, be the primary caregiver at home
yeah,
for my child while my other spouse goes and, makes a bunch of money at Big Law or whatever it is. And
right.
so I think that those are totally viable career paths, regardless if you're a woman or a man. But if
I will just say this while I think of it. The benefits, even though the actual compensation isn't as good as you can imagine, the benefits are exceptional, because every federal employee gets what um, Congress gets. So whatever health insurance plan Congress is voting on for themselves is the one that all federal government employees get. So not to bring politics into it, but that they're not going to give themselves a bad insurance plan. So we always had very good health insurance. We had good retirement benefits. There is a pension that I will still get, as well as matching 401ks, and then the ability to take off work and vacation. I think when I finally quit work, I think it's at 13 years, but don't quote me. It's 13 years or 15 years of service. You get 5 weeks of vacation
Oh,
a
there
year.
you go.
That's not sick leave. Sick leave, you still get 2. So you get 7 weeks of time off every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Every year. That's
Every
amazing.
year. Every year. So
Yeah, you're never going to see that in Big Law, that's for sure.
you're not. And so again, the compensation that you're going to get is not, deep into 6 figures. You're not going to get that. There are people that I know that were there for 20 years that were close to 6 figures, super close to 6 figures. But then you have to think, but then they got all of these other benefits. So it's just what is more important to every person.
And you can actually go and look up those figures, especially for the federal government. There's like a pay scale. So there's like this GS pay scale. You can see for each position, what GS level it's at and how much the range is, the salary range for those positions.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know that when I was in law school, but yeah, you can actually go.
And then the only part where it gets a little bit more nebulous is where, like, between GS, some agencies have between 9, 11, 12, and 13. There are some that are automatic, like after you go for 3 years, you automatically go to the next one. And then in other ones, it is a competitive promotion. So I would just say, if anyone is interested in the federal government, every agency kind of does their GS levels once you get higher up a little bit different. Like I think 5, 7, and 9 are always, I think, automatic. And then after that, if your GS level can go to, let's say your journey is to 9, then you have to compete with other 9s to get to 11. Sometimes your GS goes all the way to 12, and then you compete for 13. So it just matters how your particular agency will handle those promotions.
Nice.
So.
Very cool. Okay, well, now that we've talked about that, I want to dive into marketing. So tell me, What have you learned about legal marketing?
Well, I literally knew nothing years ago, like probably 5 years ago. I knew nothing about it. And like I said, I started working for large digital marketing agencies, and I owe them a lot because I cut my teeth quickly and learned about keywording, which helps you rank on Google. And I learned about SEO, which is search engine optimization. And I just loved it. There's just certain things that sometimes you just fall in love with. And I think there's a creative aspect to it that I love. And I found that I was a really fast writer. Like, not yesterday, the day before, I wrote, I want to say 10 or 11,000 words for law firms. So I just happen to have the ability to write a lot quickly. So, you like what you're good at or fast at. So I thought, well, I want to learn more. So then I learned about, how to make your LinkedIn profile for a law firm better. And then I learned how to use Facebook groups to your advantage. And I just learned as much as I could about it while still working for large digital marketing agencies. And then what happened was I realized that the large digital marketing or the large law firms, God bless them, they have the money to spend $20,000 a month. So they were consuming the top of Google for a lot of these keywords because they would literally have like 50, 60 articles on a very similar topic that they would have these large digital marketing agencies and people like me write for them. So I kind of grew frustrated because I've always liked the underdog and I didn't like it. It didn't sit well with my moral compass that these small and solo law firms were not getting. I felt like they were trying to play the same game, and you can't win, like a JV high school team can't win against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right.
So I thought, well, they've got to play I've got to figure out a different game that they can play to help them get to the top of Google and to get seen in all of these other areas, a more holistic and comprehensive thing. So that was when I started my own legal marketing agency, LawQuill. So, and I love it. I genuinely love it. Like, I will forget to eat sometimes, or I will be up, I'll say, okay, I'm coming to bed, and it's an hour and a half later and I'm still working on. So I just love it. I love it. I love what I do.
Do you ever take interns?
I actually am growing now, which is awesome.
That's amazing.
And
Congrats.
yes. And I am considering, I will need to hire eventually some writers for me. So I definitely can see in 2021 that I will need to hire additional writers. I would be interested in absolutely hiring interns that would be interested in learning about digital marketing or this process. I would absolutely be on board with it if they are interested in this type of career path, for sure.
Yeah, I always tell students that it's always great to find a way to work with attorneys in whatever ways that they need. Maybe the attorney doesn't need somebody to come in and do legal research, but maybe that attorney needs somebody who will blog for them. Maybe that attorney needs somebody who can help with their LinkedIn or their Instagram, or whatever it is. But if you can at least get your foot in the door to start working with that attorney and learning from them, that is priceless. Because
I also foresee it starting now, and I foresee it being huge, that law firms will hire in. Right now, everybody's going to digital marketing agencies, right? They're all going outsource because it's not a thing yet. A few have it where they hire someone in-house to do all their blogging, all their digital marketing, all of their social media, all of their lead magnets, opt-ins, their email list. I think it's a career. I think it's going to be one that is going to explode.
Absolutely. I think it's the same too, because you've seen it in all these other industries. But let's face it, the legal profession is slow. Like, we don't adopt very quickly. And I think that you're going to start seeing it in all these, in all these law firms are going to start realizing, hey, instead of shelling out $20,000 a month to a huge digital marketing agency to do this, we can hire a few really effective people in-house that get to know our attorneys, that know what they do, that, are able to effectively sell what we do way better.
And I think what would be interesting is, I think actually with the whole COVID thing, as horrific as it is, it has pushed every single law firm, willing or unwillingly, onto the internet, because frankly, nobody's driving by billboards anymore, right? I mean, nobody's even out. So, I mean, they are, but you know what I'm, not as often. So in order to get the traffic, you need to be online. I genuinely think, I mean, it's putting me out of a job, right? Because I don't want anybody to have in-house. I want them me, but I definitely can see where they would hire someone out of law school who not only knows the law, but knows all the digital marketing. I mean, what a perfect marriage.
Yeah, well, I mean, just like you see these people who are doing outsourced GC services or outsourced chief legal offices services, and maybe they serve 4 or 5 big clients, but that's all they do. I think that this business model could go the same way. I mean, you could have somebody who's a full-time digital marketer supporting maybe 4 or 5 huge law firms.
I think so. And I think, you have to look at it similar to a rainmaker. Yes. So you hire someone to do rainmaking for you, right? Because you don't want to spend the time doing it. Maybe you don't even know how to do it that well, but you need clients. So why wouldn't you hire a person who knows social media, digital marketing, SEO, and everything? Because the bottom line is you want clients, right? You don't care really about online visibility unless it brings you in money. So you want to pay someone to bring you in clients, to bring you in money. I do. I think in the next 5 years, we're going to see it explode as a career path for attorneys. I do.
Absolutely. I think you should start an online course about it, actually.
I'm already working on a course right now for attorneys and paralegals on how to write quality SEO article. I'm already doing it. But you know what? That is not a bad idea. Like how to
listen, like all these people, think about it. All the people who get out of law school and they're like, you know what? I don't want to practice law a day in my life. They could do this.
Well, thanks for giving me something else to work on.
You're welcome.
But honestly, right? I will tell you, honestly, I could probably throw something together that wouldn't take me an exceptional amount of time. If any of the people that are listening right now are interested, definitely let me know. Email me or message me or whatever and let me know for sure. Because I mean, I'm very interested in paying it forward. It's just part of who I am. And frankly,
you'd be interested.
The clients that I do get money for my content writing, but most of the time I give them so much for free just because that's who I am. I just want to give. So I show them how they can take my one article and they can actually repurpose it 20 ways through all of, so they spend the money on the article. And then I'm like, look, I can do it for you, but you can do it yourself. And I show them how to take my article and do that. I just do all that for free. I should offer it as a service, but I don't. I just like to help people.
Great. But I totally think that this is going to be a booming industry. And I think that there's going to be a lot more law students who may be interested in this pathway. And I think it's just one of those things that law school really won't prepare you for or teach you. Just like law firm administration, I know a lot of people now are getting jobs on the administration side of law firms and they're not practicing, but maybe they're, doing stuff like business development, or maybe they're doing things like diversity and inclusion. I mean, gosh, every single law firm right now is growing their D&I group. So
yes. And I think that the key is for law students to get ahead of the curve, because then, like online years are like dog years, right? So like 1 year online is like 10 years offline. So in 5 years, if you can say, oh, I have 5 years of experience with legal marketing while everybody else is just starting, you're going to be seen as the expert in the industry. Even with 2 or 3 years of it, you are going to be seen as an expert. And therefore you will command a greater salary, frankly. That's the truth. So doing what you love, right? Because it's fun. I'm not going to lie. It's a fun gig. I'm not going to lie. It's fun.
Yeah, but so now tell me though, what are some downsides to being an entrepreneur?
Well, gosh,
I know there are some.
there are, you know what? You have to learn all the things yourself, right? So and the buck stops with you. So if like we were talking earlier, like if my WooCommerce is not connecting to my ConvertKit email subscriptions correctly, I got to figure it out. Or if my WordPress isn't, my website is not working correctly, I do my own I've done my own website. So I figure that out myself. There's a lot to, to figure out as an entrepreneur. And then of course there is the marketing. You have to, you can do paid marketing. And I think that we all know that that works really well and it will get you a lot of leads, but it's super expensive. I think one of the number one keywords on Google AdWords is law and lawyer and lawyers and legal. So if I want to say I'm doing digital legal marketing, I mean, I'd have to take out a second mortgage on my house probably to get that AdWord. So, the organic marketing of just being up in everybody's faces all the time, right, is time consuming. There are tricks to, as I'm sure you probably know, there are tricks, using schedulers for social marketing is one that I think is very industry standard at that, for everybody. I don't think it's looked down on. I mean, you've got to do it. You can't start thinking of a post every single day to write. I think that another downside of being an entrepreneur can be, especially in the time of COVID, that you become a little isolated. So the way that I combat that is I am with a group of women. Actually, several are in Europe. One is in New Zealand, and then a few are in the United States. And we co-work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I should be in there right now, but I'm not. I'm with you. For a couple of hours every week. And so, you just get that sort of human interaction where you're at the water cooler, the virtual water cooler, so to speak. So, and I think that, there is risk involved in being an entrepreneur. I will tell you, I'm exceptionally risk averse. I was in a federal job for 20 years. So as you can imagine, risk is not my jam. But that said, I developed a very clear path that I was super comfortable with so that when I left my federal employment, the leap was not as terrifying for me because I had already established, and I knew that I could always go back to writing for large digital marketing firms. That's always going to be there if LawQuill did not work, which it is. So I would say that those are the downsides, the risk, the isolation, and then the fact that you do have to learn everything, all the things you have to learn. Yes. You know what I'm talking about. So
I totally know what you're talking about. Well, I think we want to just go ahead and open it up now. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask away. You can either jump on video and ask, or feel free to ask in the chat box. But yeah, in the meantime, just so that you can think of your questions, Annette, do you have any advice for people who either want to pursue a career in the federal government or people who want to pursue a career in legal marketing?
So for federal government, I would say they have internship possibilities all the time. And the great thing about the federal government is once your foot is in the door, you can go anywhere. So don't feel like if you get like, let's say you really want to work at the Department of Labor. Okay, whatever. but the Department of, the OIG department or a different Department of Wage and Hours, something is open. I would highly suggest becoming an intern there because once you have your foot in the federal government, it's easier to pivot into other areas of federal government. Washington, oh my gosh, you can always find a job in Washington, D.C., always. As far as digital marketing goes, I would say there's so many different areas of digital marketing for law firms. If you're interested in writing, you can talk to me and I might hire you. So there's that. Or you can go to larger digital marketing agencies. There are ones like Blue Shark, and we do web content. There are a million. You just Google it. And you can just apply for a job there to be a writer, or even look on Upwork for jobs. But I would highly suggest that if you are interested, go to a large marketing firm first so that you understand, so that you learn actually what you should be doing. A lot of the large marketing firms will also have the ability for you to learn like maybe SEO issues or things like that. If you're interested in digital marketing as a whole, I would say that the responsibility, unfortunately, is on you to learn to take courses, right? That are, highly acclaimed or recommended courses on search engine optimization, which frankly works across all platforms, not just law, right? Like there is a system how you get to the top of Google.
If you have any courses that you'd recommend, you can send them to me in an email and I'll put them.
Okay, let me think.
Yeah, just send them
let me think on that, because I'm sure that there are some that I can provide for you. But I'm going to just add this as a little footnote to just say that anybody can make money online. My daughter is 14 years old. And when she was, this is a little bit of a side note, but it really will get to something the law students I think can use. So I had a passion project. My husband and I have converted a Sprinter van. And I created a whole blog for that has dozens and dozens of posts, and we travel, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I was heavy into Pinterest and Instagram for it because that's where the marketing for that particular, it's not as much for law firms, right? So I learned all of it. And then my daughter was 12 at the time, and I'm like, she's gifted. And so I said, hey, can you just start making these pins for me and learn meta descriptions and learn SEO for Pinterest, which SEO for Pinterest is very different than Google. And she's like, yeah, sure, I'll learn it. So she started to learn it, and she did all of my pins from that point on. And they were all at the top of Pinterest. And so my friends started saying, well, can she work for me? Long story short, she now has clients throughout the United States and Canada, and has created her own Pinterest SEO course called pinningmagic.com. She got $1,500 from the launch of that on the launch.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So all I'm saying is that if a 14-year-old literally can make that kind of money online, the money is there. It's there. And if it's something that you're interested in, not working for a large law firm or even practicing law, the money is there to be made for anyone, for sure.
That's amazing. Does anybody have any questions for Annette? Not yet. If anyone's on mute, you'll have to unmute yourself, by the way. I don't know if you're on mute or not.
Oh, can you hear me? I think I was on mute.
Yeah. Hey, Melinda.
Oh, hi, Angie, and hi, Annette. Thank you so much for hosting this. I'm sitting here taking notes furiously because this is so inspiring. I'm a federal government attorney and, looking at possibly pivoting, and I don't know anybody who ever leaves the government. You're like a unicorn, so it's so nice to talk to a unicorn.
Oh my gosh, Melinda, right? Nobody ever leaves.
They don't leave. And so I'm just, a lot of what you said resonated with me, particularly being risk averse. And so I have been thinking about ways to explore other options while I still, work for the government. We've actually had quite a bit of downtime with my agency because of COVID. I do labor and employment work mostly. Okay. And because we don't have all the drama going on in the workplace because everyone's at home, we're actually slower. And all of our Social Security offices are closed right now. So this is a good time to explore other options. And, I've been there for 10 years, kind of the same thing you were talking about. Just there's so much positive, but, there's some burnout after a while. So I just want to thank you. I didn't have any questions. You answered all the questions I had really about, how you made that shift and what you're doing now. But I just wanted to say thanks, and it's super inspiring. Like your path has been awesome, and it sounds like you're gonna strike it big. So I'm definitely wanting to keep up with you. Thanks for everything.
First of all, Melinda, I'm almost like teary right now, because I will first of all, connect with me on LinkedIn and we can chit chat more. So just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
But I will tell you that, when I decided that I was going to quit and I turned in my 2-week notice, it was literally like people thought that, I don't know, a nuclear war, like they were like, but this never happens. No one ever leaves. Like no one leaves. Like the only people that leave are like the young kids that come in. They come in for a year or two. They're like hit and out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the long timers, like the people who are there forever, they never leave. They will retire from there. And so people were just shocked that I did it. The one piece of advice I will give you specifically, if you work in the federal government, because I'm a rule follower, I went down to our RSOL office, our attorneys, quietly, and I said, I am going to be writing on the side, because I didn't want any ethical issues. You know how that is with the government. And I got it in writing so that nobody could ever say. Now, nobody in my office knew that I was doing it. Like my supervisor didn't know I was doing it. My director didn't know I was doing it. Nobody knew I was doing this. But I felt like if I got a piece of paper from the RSOL that said our ethics, you know how you have an ethics person? And I got a piece of paper from the ethics person saying, it is okay as long as you do not write about anything regarding ERISA or IRS, because we have a little bit of a nexus with IRS with some of the reporting issues. So as long as I didn't write about ERISA or retirement plans or health plans or COBRA or HIPAA or any of those kinds of things, then I was fine. Like I could write about car accidents or whatever I wanted, whatever I got assigned to write. So, but connect with me on LinkedIn so that I can answer any questions you may think of later. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Sure. And I just wanted to put it out there if anyone else is interested in hearing about, another role in the federal government, reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn, because I could give you insight on my agency.
Melinda, watch out. I'll bring you on a Zoom meetup too.
Okay.
I'll take you up on that.
Okay.
So, Annette, can you tell me a little bit about how did you pitch yourself to a legal marketing agency to get that experience? Like,
okay, I have to tell you, I did,
revamp it and pitch yourself.
I have to tell you, I was very blessed. I just got blessed. It just literally fell in my lap. So I was on a Facebook group, and I don't even remember which one it was. And there was a girl, her name is Kaylee Jacome, and she's amazing as well. She helps lawyers start their own law firms so that they can have the lifestyle that they want. So I don't know if you know Kaylee or not, but she's amazing. And so she was creating this other business, and she needed some additional writers. And I said something about, I'm looking for something other than my job. And she's like, oh, well, I have some, would you like to do some writing? And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And she's like, well, no, you write about, and I'm like, what's that? Like, I didn't even get it, what she was saying. I didn't even know law firms had blogs. Like, I didn't even get any of it. And so I'm like, sure, I'll do it. I'll see if I like it. And so I started doing that. And she said, you can go on Upwork and I will give you a good recommendation. So then other people will hire you. So then I got a few jobs on Upwork. And then I thought, well, I bet I could just apply to one of the I could just apply. What's going to happen? So I went and I just cold emailed all of these large digital marketing agencies. And I'm like, look, I've been an attorney for 20 years and now I have writing experience. Not a lot. Writing, I didn't say that. I said, I have writing experience. I've written these different types of whatever. Are you interested? And they would give me they would pay me to do 1 or 2 sample writing articles so they knew that I knew what I was doing. And then I was hired onto 2 different agencies like that. And then it just snowballed from there.
That's awesome. And were those remote positions or were they?
Everything's remote.
Okay.
Everything is remote. I don't even know that I know where they're located. Terrible. I don't know that I even know where they're located. So yeah, so everything is remote. Everything is absolutely remote, which is awesome, right?
Yeah, I wonder if they would even take law students while they're in law school. Like if you can't get a job and you're looking for something that's like.
Well, I do know, if I can pitch someone else, there is a friend of mine, Haley, she does gig law. Do you know?
Haley Leviashvili. We've had her on too.
She's awesome. She actually has Law Quill we're partnered together. So she has a link back from her site to mine. And so I think that that's a really good way that is definitely the easiest, probably most direct route for if an attorney wanted to find a law student.
Yeah.
I don't know that the larger marketing firms would hire them, but you know what? There are what we so graciously call content mills, which, as you can imagine, do not pay as much, but you can get a lot of experience. And frankly, it's usually like something like $20 or $25 for a 500-word article. So it's not very much money. But, if you have downtime and you want to see if it's right for you, then I definitely think that it's something that you should explore, because you won't make a ton of money doing it, but you'll at least know if you like it. So then you can.
And you'll have the work product. So you can always say, I've written so much of this, I have all these articles, I've done all this stuff. So like, at least you have the credentials.
And I think that there are internship positions as well, which are maybe not paid or paid even maybe less than that, but are a way for you, again, to say, I have a work product in this particular industry.
Yeah, and I think especially when it comes to writing, you do need a book of samples. You do need, all those things. So like if you're trying to really break into this industry, taking a couple of those less desirable positions just so that you can get the experience, so that you can learn about this world, so that you can have samples available. I mean, that's invaluable.
I did it. I mean, I'm not doing anything that I think is beneath me. I definitely wrote for a lot less than I thought I was worth. But again, it allowed me to learn how to write really fast, how to find what I needed to write quickly on the internet, how to research quickly, how to write quickly, because I wanted to make money. So I learned how to do everything very fast.
Gosh, but how much of that do we do anyway as, law students and lawyers? Like there's tons of times that you take unpaid internships just to get the experience, right? So this is
That's right. That's right. And, if you can end up writing, I think to start, if you wrote if you wrote an article, 500 words, you can probably knock that out in an hour or less. If you're at the beginning, maybe it'll take you a little longer, but you'll eventually. So, that's $20, that you didn't have before. And then you have something that you can include in your portfolio.
Totally.
For sure.
Does anybody else have any questions for Annette? Feel free to ask away. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, I'm so excited to have you on today, Annette. I've really loved hearing about your story and learning everything that you had to say. I mean, I think this is such an interesting career path, and I'm sure that it'll be booming in the future. So this is really, really cool of you to come on and talk about this. And I wish you all the success with Law Quill. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. I really am honored to be here. I think that your voice in what you're doing is much needed for law school students, or even, people like Melinda who are attorneys who want to pivot into something different. Your voice is I really feel like a much needed one in this industry. And it is a privilege to be on here. And anyone who is on right now, or anyone who's watching the replay, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And I am more than happy to just freely offer any advice or answer any questions that you may have. Please do not hesitate, because I do wish someone would have done this for me. earlier.
Thank you so much again
Thank
for that
you.
super, super nice offer. I really appreciate it. I know that the students will appreciate it too. So thank you for your time again today. And everyone else, thank you so much for spending your time with us. And I hope to see you all next week. We have another lineup of Zoom meetups, as well as next week is our virtual happy hour. So every other Friday we do a virtual happy hour, Annette. So come join us. It's really, really fun. It's for all current law students, lawyers, and pre-law students. And what we do is we do introductions in the main room for like 10 minutes, and everyone gets to go around and introduce themselves. And then we split out into breakout rooms one-on-one, and you get to meet somebody for 15 minutes, and then we mix everybody around, and you get to meet other people for 15 minutes. And then we all come back into the main room and explain like one fact that we learned about each of the people that we met, so that everybody else gets to know. So it's really, really fun. It's a great way for everybody in the legal profession to get to know more people, and it's more interactive. And yeah, I think you'll really like it. So come.
I love it. You are providing such value to these.
Come hang out with us next week, and I'm super excited to see all of you next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and talk to you soon. Bye.